When dad's not ready for you and you go and all of a sudden something bad happens, now the next time you put on, and then you're back to that fear again. Right? That is our journey that we have, and I want us to understand as we go through. It's not going to be perfect, but that's the journey I want us to go on, from being fearful to having fear to being fearless. It doesn't mean that we are never going to have fear. There's going to be times we're going to hesitate, and sometimes that's a good thing. But I want us to go from fear to fearless and going out and sharing God's love. And I don't mean like getting over your earthly fears of spiders and snakes. I don't mean any of that. What I mean is, let's go out and share Jesus' love. Instead of having that fear and staying in our own little coziness, our own little comfort, and not wanting to go out and do anything, just coming to church on a Sunday, I want us to get out of that fear of just hanging out. Maybe the doors aren't locked, but we're still just sitting in here. I want us to go out and let's start having fear, or being fearless about sharing God's love. That's what God calls us to do. I mean, look at Deuteronomy chapter 6. He tells us, like, you're supposed to write it on your doorpost. You're supposed to tell your kids. You're supposed to write it on that. Like, all these different, you're supposed to continue to pass it on. And what happens when you don't pass it on, and what it says in Deuteronomy 6, you're going to have a generation that doesn't understand God. But if you do pass it on, you're going to have generations that do understand God. Well, guess where we're at? We're in a society who doesn't know God. Why? Because we have not done a good job of passing it along. Instead, we've stayed in our own little fears, locked in our own little rooms, and not shared it with others. And we need to get out of that and go out and share it with others.